So, welcome to Storytime. But ditch the milk and cookies, baby, because we're diving headfirst into the deep end of insurance fraud, where the scams are slick, the lies are bold, and the plot twist cinematic. So, today's story: a man fakes his own death, tells his wife the cartel is coming after him. Now, he convinces her that he has a terminal illness, then disappears to Venezuela like his witness protection. Now, he had over $6 million in life insurance policies on himself. Now, that's a red flag right there. He drags his not so savvy wife into the lie, and she actually files the life insurance claims. He hands her forged documents overseas, and three insurance companies fall for it. And they paid him about $1 million in real money. But just when karma steps in with handcuffs and federal charges, boom, President Joe Biden pardons him. So, where did it all go down? Jacksonville, Florida, aka Duval, the North Side. Not yachts and palm trees, y'all. I'm talking soul food like your granny's back in the kitchen, hush puppies from your famous seafood spot, garlic crabs, cold drinks, and hometown barbecue that stays smoking like it knows it's got something to prove. And that heat, whoo, baby, just enough to make the Jaguars fumble another playoff dream before the coin toss. Just kidding. Now, y'all don't come for me because I'm a proud Jacksonville native, okay? Born and raised. But them Jaguars, y'all, we got to do something about that. So, welcome to the Claims Whisperer, where I take real stories, y'all, straight from the trenches of insurance and turn them into lessons you'll never forget. Now, I'll break down auto accidents, slip and falls, negligent security cases, assaults, insurance fraud, all of the wild, unhinged moments that come with them. And this ain't about scare tactics or sugarcoating. It's story time with a side of don't try this at home. So buckle up, guys. This ain't bedtime stories. This is the Claims Whisperer story time. And trust me, I got time today. So picture this, guys. Just off the main road sits a modest little furniture store. Nothing fancy, but neat and quiet. You know, the kind of place where you might drive by a dozen times before you even notice it. But once you walk in, you know, you're greeted with soft jazz music playing in the background, a front desk that smells like wood polish, and a man who always seemed just a little too polite. So we're going to change his name so I don't get a cease and desist letter. So let's call him Miguel. And for the people in the back, guys, listen, I don't have time for Miguel because this ex-con, you know, he might have some games that I really don't want to deal with. So Miguel wasn't just running a store. He was running from $11 million in debt, business loans, unpaid vendors, back taxes. It was a full on financial disaster. But instead of calling a lawyer or filing bankruptcy like most people, yeah, Miguel said, you know what? I'm going to just fake my death. So let's talk about his wife. Let's call her Lena. So that's not a real name. But, anyways, you know, the old saying goes that God looks out for fools and little babies. So Lena was petite, polite, you know, the type of woman to carry tissues and peppermints in her purse. She loved her man, though, y'all. And Miguel, he knew it. So one night, he tells her this. So, babe, I'm dying. You know, so he's claiming that he's dying from some rare illness, mad cow disease or something like that. But more importantly, he tells her that the cartel is after him. The cartel? Okay, so we go from furniture sales to a cartel threat. Be for real. So Lena's scared, she's emotional, and maybe even convinced that she's in danger too. So when he says, I have to disappear to save us, she simply nods, okay. And just like that, Miguel books a one-way ticket to Venezuela. So fast forward 3 weeks later. Lena, who we now know is really not that bright, but she starts to make the phone calls. He's gone. He died overseas. He was cremated. So Lena actually has a death certificate, supposedly from a Venezuelan doctor. She even has the cremation papers, and she throws a memorial service back in Jacksonville. Now, people actually show up, they're crying, they're weeping, followed by a repast where they are eating, all while the picture of Miguel is sitting there with a flickering candle around it. And meanwhile, where's Miguel? Alive and well, hiding out in the Venezuelan hills, sipping cocktails and watching Netflix. Now, here's the crazy part. Lena submits life insurance claims to multiple carriers. To be honest, guys, the court documents for Duval County actually said $9 million dollars and not $6.6 million. But the Department of Justice is the document that I'm using, and they said it was $6.6 million. That's just a little something for you to think about. And baby, three companies, they go ahead and make the payout, totaling about $900,000 or so. Now, keep in mind, guys, that when someone dies outside the United States, especially a country like Venezuela, insurance companies are already on alert. So, to get that payout, you're going to need a legit death certificate, government verified, medical cause of death, cremation, burial confirmation, embassy authentication, and sometimes, yes, they will actually send a field investigator. Now, remember, we're talking over $6 million, right? We're not talking about a $50 or a $100,000 insurance policy payout. We're talking millions. So they're going to pull out all the stops, okay? But it's broken up into separate insurance carriers. The Miguel, he forged these documents, guys, and the doctor who signed the papers never even saw a body. He was paid cash up front by Miguel to sign it. And that death certificate, please, it looked like it was made on Microsoft 2002. So in January 2013, y'all, is when he first told his wife that he was suffering from the disease, mad cow disease, and that he only had 6 months to live and that he could receive surgical treatment for this disease, but not in the United States. He traveled to Margarita Island, and that's just off the coast of Venezuela, and purchased a sham death certificate and a fraudulent certificate of cremation. Now, later in the month, Miss Girl, Lena, joins her husband, where she uses the documents that he got erroneously to obtain a certificate of death abroad, using the sham death certificate and, of course, the certificate of cremation that she got from her husband, Miguel. And what happens next? Well, then she hightails it back to Jacksonville, Florida to make the claims on the life insurance policy. I just don't get it, guys. How do people figure they're going to commit these crimes that turn into federal crimes and dealing with the feds, right? Because his story was all over the place, okay? So first, he told his wife that he was suffering from mad cow disease and that he only had 6 months to live and that he could receive surgical treatment for this disease, but not in the United States. What? So he then told her that he will be traveling to Colombia, y'all, South America, for the potentially life-saving surgery. Now, make that make sense. So shortly before he was scheduled to leave, right, he changed his story. So his second version of the story is that he was in the military and a part of the special ops team who had an assignment to take out a drug cartel's son. Now that sounds like a Diddy story to me. I'm just saying. So fast forward to June 2013. The wife, Lena, begins to submit fraudulent claims to 7 different life insurance companies. You know, the death benefits applications claim that her husband had died due to complications from mad cow disease and that the purpose of his trip to Venezuela had been to seek medical treatment. Now, if I was the insurance company, That would have been the red flag right there, because why would you leave a country with all of the best doctors in the world to go to Venezuela, who's fighting to eat, okay, and to stay alive? That makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, she filed the 7 separate life insurance policies, and she did it at the same time. Okay. So it totaled $6.6 million. And based on, the issues that was identified by the insurance companies, only 3 of the insurance company paid the death benefits. They weren't that smart, y'all. That totaled about $900,000. He was currently being blackmailed by a rogue CIA agent. Y'all, make it make sense. So he's saying that the CIA agent told him that he would expose him, his identity, the whole nine, his family, where he lived, the whole nine, to one of the cartel sons, and that if he did not satisfy his blackmail demands, that he would expose him, in short. So then he tells his wife that both their families, her family and his family, were in danger, and that he needed to fake his death in order to protect them. So this new explanation was just ridiculous, right? And so he then developed a plan to leave the country to secure fraudulent death certificate and other documents. So this could be a version of that show For My Man. When girls and women do anything for their man, even if it means life in prison. I don't think so. But let's fast forward to fall of 2013. Miss Lena, she takes a cruise to the Bahamas to meet up with Miguel, right? So while in the Bahamas, they paid someone $5,000 to smuggle them into the US on a fishing boat, nonetheless. So that went through. They ended up in the United States, back in the United States, that is. Miguel, he traveled under a false name using the name, get this, guys, Harry Fields. Okay, that sounds, pretty innocuous. But in early December 2013, he traveled by bus to Jacksonville, where his wife had already gone. She picks him up, and they drove to a house that they had purchased on their honeymoon in Cashers, North Carolina. Like he just thought faking his own death was some temporary inconvenience to the insurance companies. No, boo, that's not how that works. These people have exclusive departments under special investigations units to investigate these type matters. It made zero sense. And then he reappears to the US in North Carolina, nonetheless. What was it? Some miraculous resurrection? Well, to me, it was more like a soggy, fraudulent Lazarus emerging from a Bahamian fishing boat. I just think it's ridiculous. But y'all tell me what y'all think. Now, back to the story. So I forgot to tell you guys how these two geniuses met. So back in 2011, they met on a Christian dating site, and then they got married quickly thereafter. Okay, so let's fast forward to September 30th, 2014. Miguel waltzes up into North Carolina's Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, guys, y'all already know the driver's license plates be all up in your business, especially if you've never had a driver's license in that state. But Miguel, being the thief that he is, right? He was able to obtain a driver's license using a false name. Now, this is where he messed up. Less than 2 months later, he went to the post office in North Carolina and fraudulently applied for a passport using the false name. So officials detected the passport fraud, and then they also discovered a previous passport issued to Miguel. So on March 21st, 2015, special agents from the State Department and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations, they began to conduct surveillance, okay, on Miguel. And They went to the home that he used, on his fraudulent applications, and then they confronted him and arrested him. Now, this was in 2015. So here's where we press pause, guys. When someone dies outside the United States, especially in a high fraud risk country like Venezuela, insurance companies are not to be played with. Okay. They're going to want authentic documentation, embassy verification, an official translated death certificate, medical cause of death, funeral or cremation evidence, and sometimes a whole investigative team. So when you're talking millions of dollars in the grand scheme of things, they will gladly fly two agents over to Venezuela to do their own investigation. So I don't really know who Miguel thought he was playing with, because the feds have a 98-ish% conviction rate. Okay, so they ain't really to be played with. And if you really want your freedom, you really don't want to be messing with federal crimes, period, really, but certainly not those involving the feds. So he was back in the US acting like life was good, all up in North Carolina, spending money. But the crazy part about it is the US, even back then, had facial recognition, especially when you go to get a driver's license. Okay. And so it's going to be flagged and they will turn you in. So get this, guys. This fool wearing a bad wig, a fake beard, like he just walked off the set of CSI, midlife crisis. Okay. His charges, get this: wire fraud, bank fraud, passport fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud. So back in 2015, after he got busted, I guess he probably was like, you know what? I'm busted. It is what it is. He pleads guilty and is sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. And Lena, okay, I guess they felt sorry for her. The feds probably just took one look at her and said, this poor baby, y'all, she didn't know. Okay. Because they do charge her, though, because she had already spent like 15 to 18 months in jail while they were investigating the whole matter. Now, this is before they found Miguel. So authorities did believe that Lena knew more than she let on, but they did show her leniency and she cooperated and got a lighter sentence. So y'all comment down below if y'all think that Lena was just playing dumb or if she was really just not really that bright. And tell me, do you know anybody that seems like a cat that has 9 lives and always land on their feet even when they're doing something illegal? Because I'm going to tell you something, guys. I know a few people that has gotten away with so much stuff. And I'm like, dang, these fools ain't never going to get caught. But at the end of the day, guys, remember, whatever you sow, you will reap. One time or the other, it never gets past the law of sowing and reaping. Okay. So Lena ended up getting like 5 years of probation because honestly, the feds wasn't after her anyways. They really didn't think that she was a vital part of the whole scheme. And she did flip on her husband. So they really wanted the big fish. And that was Miguel. So they were happy enough to throw him in prison for 14 years. So you would think that's the end of the story, right? It's not. It gets crazier, guys. Now, the feds, they're whistling Dixie, okay? They've given him 14 years. He's already in his early 60s, right? So he won't be out until he's in his late 70s, and they ain't worried about it, right? They have their little celebration, and that's that. But here comes President Joe Biden commuting Miguel's sentence and citing health issues and his prior military service. And guess what? Miguel walks free. So, yeah, the man who faked his death, stole from insurers, and vanished for years, now he's out here probably reading this. Hey, Miguel, he probably reading this story. So get this, guys. This wasn't just a scam. It was a masterclass in arrogance and a reminder insurance companies may be slow, but they ain't stupid, okay? And if you fake your death, you better not show up at the DMV. If you commit fraud, the paper trail will find you. And if you file legitimate claims, do that right or risk it all, guys. Okay. Now, this is the claims whisperer, and I've spent 30 years in claims, auto claim, security, slip and falls, assaults. And I'm here to tell you, never go through that stuff alone, and don't do it blindly, guys. Take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, because what we offer here is insurance education, how to, what not to do, and story time every single week that will blow your socks off. So if this made you say, what? Then like it, subscribe, and turn on those notification bells, because baby, I got time today. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Claims Whisperer and your girl. I'll see you next time.